Ghastly Roommate, Edenemy, Chapter 6. Family Feud. Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Chapter text. The scene could have been the start of a joke. A turtle, a rabbit, and a ghost walk into a bar. Except it wasn't a bar. And the punchline would never come. Walking into the TV room, Yuichi felt like a murder suspect in an interrogation chamber. There was a sort of tension in the air, as if everyone knew that someone in the room had a gun, and they were just waiting for the first shot to fire. Yuichi was the one with the metaphorical gun in this situation. Most of the faces were new to the rabbit. 2 turtles. One was Mikey, and the other had on a purple mask with goggles atop his head. Donnie, Yuichi presumed. There was also a middle-aged rat yokai, and a human boy of about 16 or 17. Each of their expressions were carefully neutral. This was a grief-stricken family. They had just lost someone a few months ago. They had probably finally started to accept that he was really, truly gone. And Yuichi was here to tell them, "Oops, sorry. Leo's actually right here with me. Yup, I can talk to your dead brother." He was definitely going to get along swell with the Hamato fam. Yuichi felt Raf's giant hand carefully being placed on his shoulder. "Everyone," Raf said. "This is Yuichi." The rat yokai sat up in his chair. "That's a Japanese name," he remarked. "Are you Japanese, boy?" Yuichi nodded. "Why, yes, sir." The yokai smiled, got up from his chair, and shook Yuichi's hand. "Hamato Yoshi. You may call me Splinter." Yuichi didn't know how to respond. He just bowed his head quickly as the yokai Yoshi, Splinter, sat back down in his chair. "Well, my dad likes you," Leo said in a shaky voice. Yuichi hadn't realized how difficult this probably was for him, seeing his family right in front of him, yet them not being able to see him. "Yuichi," Raf said. "This is Casey," he pointed to the human boy, and Donnie, he pointed to the purple-masked turtle yokai. "And you've met my dad and Mikey." Yuichi didn't want to be insensitive, but he couldn't help himself from asking, "Your dad's a rat." Sometimes the ADHD just gets away from him. The comment made Leo giggle. It also brought out a laugh from Splinter himself. Raf took the question seriously, though. "Yeah, technically Splinter's our biological father." Yuichi definitely hadn't expected that answer. "What? How?" Forgive him for sounding incredulous, but he didn't think that was possible in yokai. Sure, 2 reptiles could create offspring, but definitely not a mammal and a reptile. Leo must have been reading his thoughts somehow, because he said, "Babe, you know we're not yokai, right?" Yuichi was so confused he almost didn't notice Leo calling him babe. "Almost. You're not yokai." Raf shook his head. "Mutants. But that's a long story that can wait for." He paused, his expression darkening, evidently remembering what they were here for, some other time. "Okay, Raffi." Mikey clapped his hands. "Enough of the family history lesson. What's Yuichi's news for us?" His voice sounded upbeat, but his expression was guarded, like he knew that whatever news the white rabbit brought couldn't be good. Raf's expression tightened. He nodded at Yuichi. "Go ahead," he directed before sitting down. All 5 faces stared at him expectantly. Yuichi looked to his right and locked eyes with Leo. The turtle's face was tense, but he nodded. Yuichi took a deep breath and began to explain what had become of their deceased family member after he'd sacrificed everything. He noted everyone's facial expressions as he told his story. Mikey's was deadly serious, but quickly crumbled as the story was being told. Raf, who had already heard the story, stared blankly at Yuichi. He couldn't read Splinter's face. Donnie and Casey, who at that point were the only ones who had not spoken, both listened with a calculating gaze, trying to decipher every word that bled from the rabbit's mouth. The only difference between the two was that Donnie was the only one who looked surprised by the end of the speech. Casey's face remained in that scrunched eyebrow expression, as if trying to recall something he knew he was supposed to know. When Yuichi was done talking, the whole room was silent. Mikey had tears running down his face. The only sound was the low hum of the projector as it played a paused frame of some Lu-Jitsu movie. "Is this your idea of a joke?" It took a moment for Yuichi to realize where the voice had come from, and it seemed to shock the Hamato family, too, as they all realized that the question had come from Donnie, who reportedly hadn't spoken since Leo died. "It's not fucking funny," Donnie continued. "My brother's death is not a goddamn joke." No one else spoke. He stood up and stomped toward Yuichi, grabbing him by the shirt collar. "Look here, Rabbit. My brother died to save this whole damned world. Show him some fucking respect." He screamed that last part in Yuichi's face. Yuichi glanced at Leo. "He's telling the truth. This time." It was Casey who spoke. "He is?" Donnie and Raf asked in unison. "I am," Yuichi also asked, earning a glare from Donnie, who was still holding him by the shirt collar. "I knew you, in the future," Casey clarified, which, by the way, did not clarify anything for Yuichi. "You're Usagi Yuichi, right? Okay. Now, Yuichi was a little creeped out. He nodded. In the future, Yuichi-sensei was a powerful medium, Casey continued, creeping Yuichi out yet again. He could talk to ghosts and stuff, helped crime victims get to the afterlife. He and Master Leonardo were married. It's possible that Leo could have been drawn to him somehow. Donnie scowled. I still don't trust him. Yet, Yuichi felt the grip on his collar loosen. What if he somehow found out about all that and is trying to trick us? Yuichi cleared his throat. Sorry, can we go back to the part where this human kid knew me in the future? And the part about me being married to Leo? He added in his head. Splinter rubbed his eyes. Purple. Let go of Rabbit, he instructed in a shaky voice. Donnie reluctantly released Yuichi. Thank you. Now, Rabbit, tell me something only Leonardo would know. We will see whether or not you are telling the truth. Yuichi leaned over to Leo, who whispered something in his ear. Your Lujitsu, he asked, incredulously. Seriously, I thought you died. Splinter gripped the armrests of his chair. Oh, come on. Everyone knows that, Donnie complained. Say something more surprising. Leo continued whispering things in Yuichi's ear. Raph let you guys eat poison pizza puffs. He what? Splinter shouted. That was not my fault, Raph protested. Those rascals didn't read the label. It clearly stated that they were poison. Mikey got captured by bats, Yuichi shrugged. Hey, they all did too, Mikey said, wiping the tears from his eyes. That library was huge. I needed to know if there would be an echo. It was worth it, thank you very much. Leo whispered one last thing in Yuichi's ear, making him giggle. Donnie draws on his eyebrows. Okay, that was a personal attack? Donnie huffed, then hesitated. He gripped his left wrist, which Yuichi now noticed had a blue ribbon tied around it. You're really talking to him? Leo hovered next to Donnie, and wrapped his arm around his twin as best he could without phasing through him. I'm sorry, Don, he said. He says he's sorry, Yuichi translated. Donnie took a shaky breath, tears falling from his eyes. He held out his left hand, palm up, and placed 2 fingers of his right hand on top of his left. Then, he held up his right index finger, palm facing Yuichi, and moved his hand side to side. Mikey must have noticed Yuichi's puzzled look, because he said, he's asking where Leo is standing. Oh, Yuichi pointed to Donnie's left. He's actually hugging you right now, Donnie. Donnie wiped his eyes, and held up his index finger, toward the direction Yuichi had pointed. This time, his palm was facing himself. Raph gave a dry laugh. Now, he's flipping Leo off? It's a little hard to do with only 3 fingers. Leo smiled. Love you too, D. Yuichi translated this, and Donnie reacted by crying even harder, which in turn made Leo cry. Then Mikey, who ran up to Donnie and hugged him. Soon, everyone had joined in the hug, except for Yuichi. He was content to just watch the heartwarming family moment. The Hamidus were finally reunited. Well, sort of. Leo was still dead. That was not an ideal situation. Yuichi wanted to change that. He needed to make Leo alive again. He was determined to get him back to his family for real this time. He wanted to finally see his face clearly. That was his next mission, to resurrect Leo. Somehow, notes. I keep forgetting that this is supposed to also kinda be a romance fic, so I'm trying to add in Yuichi's pining more, but I'm kinda aromantic, so I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm so sorry, sneezing face. Hope you enjoyed the chapter anyway.